The stars beyond the observation deck looked cold and distant. Admiral Jiho stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the void. His flagship, the Indomitable, waited at the edge of council space like a guard dog on a chain. He knew what was coming. Everyone knew. The door hissed open behind him. His communications officer walked in quickly. "Sir, they're here." The council's diplomatic ship just dropped out of jump space. Jiho nodded slowly. "Let them approach. Full honors. Let's show them we still have manners, even if they don't." 30 minutes later, Jiho sat across a long table from Ambassador Haijin. She was human, like him, but she wore the silver robes of the Galactic Council. She had left Earth 40 years ago to join their diplomatic corps. Some called her a visionary. Most called her a traitor. "Admiral," Haijin said, her voice smooth and practiced, "the Council has sent me because they believe a human voice will help you understand the gravity of this situation." Jiho said nothing. He waited. Haijin touched a control on the table. A holographic document appeared between them, spinning slowly in the air. "These are the terms. The Council requires Terra to reduce its military fleet by 70% within 6 months. All colony worlds beyond the Sol system must be surrendered to Council administration. Human expansion will cease immediately. Human reproduction will be monitored and regulated to prevent overpopulation. That's all?" Jiho asked quietly. Haijin's eyes narrowed. "This is not a negotiation, Admiral. This is an ultimatum. The Council has been patient with humanity, but your species has proven aggressive, unpredictable, and dangerous. You refuse to follow galactic law. You colonize worlds without permission. Your military grows stronger every year. We defend ourselves," Jiho said. "You threaten the peace that has existed for 10,000 years, Haijin replied sharply. "The Council's member species have built a civilization based on order, cooperation, and respect for authority. Humanity rejects all of this. You act as if the rules don't apply to you." Jiho leaned forward. "Tell me something, Haijin. How many of the Council's 17 species joined voluntarily? How many were conquered? How many had a choice?" Haijin's face went cold. The Council brought stability to a chaotic galaxy. Every species benefited from their guidance. "Is that what you tell yourself?" Jiho stood up. "I'll deliver your ultimatum to Emperor Minho. He'll give you his answer in 3 days." Haijin stood as well. "Admiral, please understand. The Council's military power is absolute. They control 50,000 worlds. You have 500. If humanity refuses these terms, the war will be brief and brutal. I came here because I don't want to see Earth burning." "Then maybe," Jiho said softly, "you picked the wrong side." 3 days later, the Imperial Senate chamber on Mars was packed. Representatives from every human world sat in curved rows that stretched up to the high ceiling. Emperor Minho stood at the center podium, young but carrying himself with quiet strength. He was only 32 years old, but he had the eyes of someone much older. Behind him, in a seat of honor, sat Dowager Empress Sunny. She was Minho's grandmother, a woman who had fought in the first contact wars when humanity first met the Council. Her face was lined with age, but her back was straight and her gaze was sharp. Minho touched the podium, and the Council's ultimatum appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Silence fell as the representatives read the terms. Then the anger began. Voices rose in outrage. Fists pounded on desks. Minho let them shout for a moment. Then he raised one hand. The chamber went quiet. "They want us to dismantle our fleets," Minho said. His voice was calm, but it carried to every corner of the room. "They want us to give up our colonies. They want to tell us how many children we can have, where we can live, how we can grow. They want us to kneel." He paused, letting the words sink in. My grandmother taught me something when I was young. She said that the universe doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't care about justice. The strong make the rules and the weak follow them. The Council is strong. They have more ships, more worlds, more resources. By every logical measure, we should accept their terms. We should surrender. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward. Minho's voice grew harder. But my grandmother also taught me that there are some things worth dying for. Freedom is one of them. Dignity is another. The right to choose our own path, to make our own mistakes, to rise or fall by our own strength. These things are not negotiable. He looked directly at the cameras broadcasting his speech across all human worlds. To the Galactic Council, I say this clearly so there can be no misunderstanding. We do not accept your ultimatum. We do not recognize your authority over humanity. We do not kneel. We do not surrender. And we do not forgive. The chamber erupted. Some representatives cheered. Others looked terrified. Everyone understood what this meant. The Council has given us 30 days before their deadline expires, Minho continued. They expect us to use that time to reconsider. They're wrong. We will use it to prepare. Every world, every station, every ship. When they come, and they will come, we will show them what humanity is made of. Far across the galaxy, on the Council's capital world of Primarch Throne, High Strategos Velmara watched the broadcast. She was Crithian, tall and blue-skinned, with 4 arms and crystalline eyes. She commanded the Council's military forces, the most powerful war machine in galactic history. She turned to her officers. The humans have chosen suicide. Prepare the Armada. 20,000 ships. We will strike simultaneously at Terra, Alpha Centauri, and their colony world New Halcyon. We will decapitate their leadership in the first hour. One of her officers hesitated. Strategos, intelligence reports suggest the humans may have hidden assets we don't know about. Velmara made a dismissive gesture with 2 of her hands. Impossible. We have monitored their shipyards for decades. We know exactly how many vessels they possess. They have perhaps 800 warships. We are bringing 20,000. The mathematics are simple. Yes, Strategos, the officer said, but he didn't sound convinced. Velmara studied the star map. Humanity's worlds were scattered across one small spiral arm of the galaxy. The Council controlled everything else. How could these upstart primates think they could challenge an empire that had stood for millennia? She remembered the first time she had met a human, 70 years ago. A diplomat named Sunny. Even then, there had been something in that woman's eyes. Not fear, not awe. Something else. Defiance. Calculation. As if she was measuring Velmara and finding her wanting. Velmara shook the memory away. It didn't matter. In 30 days, humanity's rebellion would end. The Council would be merciful to the survivors. They always were. The humans would learn to accept their place in the galactic order. The war clock began its countdown. Captain Borum's hands moved across the control panel with practiced ease. Her ship, the Shadow of Terra, drifted through Council space like a ghost. The quantum stealth systems wrapped around the hull bent light and sensor waves, making the vessel invisible to everything the Council had. Distance to the target? She asked quietly. 40,000 kilometers, her navigator replied. The Council's military command station is dead ahead. Borum leaned forward in her chair. This was what they had trained for, what they had built the Shadow for, getting close enough to see what the Council was really planning. Take us in closer. I want to see inside their communications. For 3 days, the Shadow hung in space near the command station, listening. The Council's officers spoke freely, believing their communications were secure. Borum's intelligence team recorded everything. their translation AI working constantly to decode military orders and strategic plans. When Borum finally saw the complete invasion plan, she felt ice in her stomach. 3 massive fleets. Simultaneous strikes at humanity's 3 most important worlds. The Council wasn't planning to conquer. They were planning to destroy. "Get us out of here," she ordered. "Maximum speed back to Sol. The Emperor needs to see this now." 2 days later, Borum stood in a secure briefing room deep under the Martian surface. Emperor Minho studied the holographic display showing the Council's attack plan. Admiral Jiho stood beside him. And in the corner, ancient but alert, Dowager Empress Sunny watched everything. "They're not holding anything back," Jiho said. 20,000 ships. They want to end this in a single strike. Can we stop them? Minho asked. Jiho hesitated. Borum saw the uncertainty in his face. Then Sun He's voice cut through the silence. "Show him," the old woman said. Jiho touched a control. The holographic display changed. New icons appeared, spreading across the map like flowers blooming. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Borum's eyes went wide. "What am I looking at?" "The Deep Space Fleet," Sun He said. She stood up slowly, leaning on a cane, but her voice was strong. "For 50 years, we have been building ships in hidden facilities. Asteroid bases. Dark moons. Places the Council's sensors never look. 3,000 warships, Captain. Each one incorporating technology the Council has never seen." Minho was staring at his grandmother. "You've been planning this since before I was born." "Since the day I first met the Council," Sun He confirmed. "I knew they would never accept us as equals." Every diplomatic meeting, every treaty, every peaceful gesture was just buying time. Time to prepare. Time to build. Time to ensure that when this day came, humanity would be ready. She walked to the holographic display, her cane tapping on the floor. "The Council thinks they know us. They've watched our public shipyards. They've counted our visible fleets. But they don't understand humans. We don't put all our faith in what others can see. We plan. We prepare. We hide our strength until the moment we need it." Borum found her voice. 3,000 ships. Combined with our regular fleet, that's almost 4,000 total. Still outnumbered 5 to 1. "Numbers aren't everything," Jiho said. "Tell her about the predecessor technology." Sun He smiled, and it was not a gentle expression. "Captain, how familiar are you with the predecessor ruins? The ancient aliens who vanished 1,000,000 years ago?" Borum asked. "I know we found some of their structures. Dead cities. Empty stations." "Not all empty," Sun He said. 60 years ago, we found something in the Kepler system. A predecessor research facility, perfectly preserved. The technology inside was beyond anything we had ever imagined. We've spent decades trying to understand it, and we're still just scratching the surface. But we've learned enough. She touched the display again. Technical specifications appeared, showing ship designs unlike anything Borum had seen. "Our deep space fleet uses predecessor metamaterials. Hull armor that repairs itself. Energy systems that don't run out. Weapons that can punch through Council shields like paper. And the crown jewel," Jiho added, "void jump drives." Borum's breath caught. "That's impossible. Jump drives need gates. You can't just appear anywhere." "The Council's jump drives need gates," Sun He corrected. "Predecessor technology works differently. Our ships can appear anywhere in a star system, instantly, without warning. The Council has built their entire military strategy around controlling the jump gates. We're about to make that strategy worthless." On Juno Station, deep in the outer colonies, General Taijin watched the final preparations. The massive fortress hung in space, its docking bays filled with ships. 3,000 vessels, each one crude and ready. He walked through the hangar bays, looking at the faces of the men and women who would fly these ships. Most of them were young. Some had never seen combat. They looked nervous. Taijin stopped to talk to a young pilot named Dai Ho. The kid couldn't have been more than 25. "First time?" Taijin asked. "Yes, sir," Dai-Ho said, standing straight. "I've trained my whole life for this, but actually being here, knowing what's coming ... Scared?" "Terrified, sir." Taijin nodded. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp. The ones who aren't scared are the ones who get killed first." He put a hand on the young pilot's shoulder. "You know what you're flying?" "A Shadowhawk-class fighter, sir. Equipped with void jump capability, quantum targeting, and antimatter torpedoes. You know what that means?" Dai-Ho thought about it. "That we have better technology than the Council?" "It means," Taijin said, "that you have a chance. The Council has fought the same way for thousands of years. They expect everyone to fight by their rules. We're going to break every rule they have. We're going to appear where we're not supposed to be. We're going to strike where they think they're safe. We're going to show them that humans don't play by anyone's rules but our own." Back on Mars, in a laboratory buried deep underground, Chief Scientist Yuna stared at screens filled with data. She had been working on the predecessor technology for 15 years, and every discovery led to more questions. But today, she had found something incredible. "Director," she called out, "I need you to see this." Her director came over, looking tired. They had all been working around the clock. "What is it?" Yuna pulled up a simulation. "I've been analyzing the void jump drives, the way they manipulate space-time. I thought I understood the basic principles, but I found something in the predecessor data files. A note, a warning. A warning about what? About using the drives too close to certain stellar phenomena. Specifically, jump gates." Yuna's fingers flew across the keyboard. "The Council's jump gates create a specific kind of spatial distortion. If we activate a void jump drive near one of their gates, the interaction creates a cascading effect." The director leaned closer. "What kind of effect?" "The gate becomes unstable. It shuts down, completely, for hours, maybe days." Yuna looked up, her eyes bright with excitement. "Director, we can cut the Council's fleet off from reinforcements. We can trap them in whatever system we choose. They won't be able to retreat, and they won't be able to call for help." The director stared at the simulation. "Are you sure?" 97% certain. I'll need to run more tests, but the math is solid. Get it to the Emperor immediately. This could change everything." The 30-day countdown continued. Across human space, millions of civilians were quietly evacuated from the most vulnerable worlds. They were told it was a drill. Most didn't believe it, but they went anyway, trusting their government to keep them safe. Emperor Minho barely slept. He spent his days reviewing battle plans, talking to his admirals, making impossible decisions about which worlds to defend and which to sacrifice. Late one night, Sun-Hee found him alone in his office, staring at a star map. "You should rest," she said. "How did you do it?" Minho asked without turning. "How did you carry this weight for 50 years? Knowing what was coming. Preparing for a war you knew would kill millions." Sun-Hee sat down slowly. "By remembering why it matters. The Council offers peace, Minho. A comfortable peace, where humanity would be safe, fed, and controlled. Some would call that a fair trade. But I remember what it feels like to be free. To make my own choices, even if they're wrong. To stand on my own feet, even if I fall." She looked at her grandson. "The Council is older than us, stronger, more experienced. By every logical measure, we should lose this war. But humans have never been logical. We're stubborn. We're creative. and we refuse to accept that anything is impossible. What if I fail? Minho asked quietly. Then you fail standing up, Sunny said. And that's better than living on your knees. High Strategos Velmara stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Judgment, as the massive Council fleet dropped out of jump space at the edge of the Sol system. 20,000 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the distant light of Earth's sun. All ships report ready, her tactical officer announced. Scanning for defensive positions, Velmara studied the holographic display. The Sol system stretched before them, but something was wrong. Where were the human ships? Where were the defense platforms? Where were the desperate last-minute preparations of a civilization about to die? Scan again, she ordered. Full spectrum. The sensors swept through space. Nothing. No ships. No stations. No signals. Strategos, the tactical officer said, confusion in his voice. The system appears to be empty. We're detecting no military presence. No civilian traffic. It's as if they abandoned everything. Velmara felt the first touch of unease. Humans didn't run. Every psychological profile said they would fight to the last. Where are they? The answer came from behind them. Admiral Jiho watched the Council fleet from his position on Luna's far side. The moon's bulk had hidden the entire Terran defense force, thousands of ships waiting in perfect silence. Around Jupiter, more ships waited in the storm layers where sensors couldn't see. Near Mars, in the asteroid belt, among the outer moons, humanity's fleet waited. All ships, Jiho said calmly, activate void jump drives. Execute battle plan Grandmother's Fury. 3,000 ships vanished from their hiding places and reappeared inside the Council formation. Not at the edges where shields could protect them. Not at safe distances where tactics could be deployed. Inside, among them, appearing in the gaps between ships where no enemy should be able to reach. The Battle of Sol began. Velmara's bridge erupted in alarms. Ships were exploding around her, human vessels appearing from nowhere and firing at point-blank range. Her beautiful formation shattered in seconds as chaos erupted across the fleet. Return fire. All ships engage. She gripped her command chair, trying to understand what was happening. How were they doing this? Jump drives didn't work this way. It was impossible. But the impossible was happening all around her. Human ships blinked in and out of existence, appearing long enough to fire devastating volleys before vanishing again. Council vessels, designed to fight at long range with their superior numbers, found themselves in knife fight distances where none of their advantages mattered. Commander Daiho pulled his fighter into a hard turn that would have killed most species. The Gi forces crushed him into his seat, but his augmented body held together. Barely. His vision grayed at the edges, but he kept his hands steady on the controls. Falcon Squadron on me, he shouted over the comm. Target the command ship. We're going for the throat. His squadron formed up around him, 12 fighters against a dreadnought the size of a city. The math was insane. Daiho grinned inside his helmet. Humans were good at insane. They dove toward the Eternal Judgment, weaving through defensive fire. 2 fighters exploded. Then 3. Daiho didn't look back. He couldn't. All he could do was push forward, trust his training, and believe in the mission. The dreadnought's shields glowed with energy as they poured fire into it. Daiho armed his antimatter torpedo, a weapon that shouldn't exist. Built from predecessor technology that the Council had never mastered. Targeting lock achieved, his computer announced. Fire, Daiho whispered. The torpedo launched, burning through space at relativistic speeds. It hit the Eternal Judgment's shield and didn't stop. The antimatter warhead tore through the energy barrier, through the metamaterial hull, and detonated in the ship's reactor core. The explosion lit up the solar system. Velmera's flagship broke apart in an expanding sphere of fire and debris. 9,000 crew died in an instant. Behe pulled up hard, his fighter racing away from the blast. Falcon leader to all squadrons. The command ship is down. Repeat, command ship is down. Across the battlefield, the Council fleet began to break. Without Velmera's coordination, individual captains made their own decisions. Some fought on. Some tried to retreat. Many simply froze, unable to process the impossible situation. At Alpha Centauri, Captain Sora commanded the defensive perimeter. The Council's second fleet had arrived expecting an easy victory. They found a fortress. SOR had spent weeks preparing. Every ship in her fleet knew exactly where to be, exactly when to fire, exactly how to move. The Council ships were individually superior, but Sora's force fought as a single organism, each vessel covering the others, each captain trusting the plan. Status report, Sora ordered. Enemy fleet engaging. They're trying to break through our outer perimeter. Let them try. Sora watched the tactical display. The Council ships pushed forward, breaking their formation to pursue what looked like weak points in the human defense. They were falling into the trap. Now, Sora said, the weak points disappeared. Human ships that had seemed damaged or retreating suddenly reversed course, their weapons blazing. The Council vessels found themselves surrounded, caught in overlapping fields of fire with nowhere to run. On New Hanseong, Governor Juno stood in the planetary command center, watching the Third Council fleet approach his world. The Council expected a lightly defended colony. They were wrong. Sir, they're entering orbit, his tactical officer reported. Good, Juno said. Activate the surface batteries. Across the planet's surface, camouflaged panels slid open. What the Council thought was a simple colony world revealed its true nature. 5,000 planetary defense cannons, each powerful enough to cripple a battleship, all aimed at the sky. The first volley caught the Council fleet completely by surprise. Ships exploded before they could raise shields. The survivors scattered, trying to retreat to safe distance, but there was no safe distance. The cannons could reach orbit, and New Hanseong had been built for this exact purpose. Commence continuous fire, Juno ordered. Don't let them regroup. Back at Seoul, the battle entered its 6th hour. The Council fleet, which had numbered 20,000 strong, was down to less than 6,000. Debris filled the space around Earth, the wreckage of both human and Council ships, drifting in silent testimony to the violence. Admiral Jiho received reports from all fronts. Alpha Centauri was holding. New Hanseong was winning. But Seoul had paid a price. Nearly 800 human ships destroyed. Thousands dead. Admiral, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a surrender request from the Council fleet. They're asking for terms. Jiho looked at the holographic display. The surviving Council ships were clustering together, their formation defensive, their weapons powered down. They had come to destroy humanity. Now they were begging for mercy. Tell them we accept their surrender, Jiho said. Order them to proceed to Jupiter orbit, where they will be interned. Any ship that deviates from course or activates weapons will be destroyed immediately. Yes, sir. Jiho allowed himself a moment of relief. They had won. Against all odds, against superior numbers, humanity had won the first battle, but he knew this wasn't over. The Council had lost a fleet, but they had hundreds more. They had lost ships, but their industrial capacity dwarfed humanity's. And most importantly, they had lost face. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They would not accept this humiliation. On the ruins of the Eternal Judgment's command deck, rescue teams found a single survivor in an escape pod. High Strategos Velmara was alive barely. Her crystalline eyes had gone dull with shock. 2 of her 4 arms were broken, but she lived. As they pulled her from the wreckage, she whispered something. The rescue team leader leaned close to hear. They were supposed to be primitives, Velmara said. How did they do this? How? The rescue team leader, a young human medic, looked at the broken alien commander. She thought about all the people who had died today. All the ships burning in the void. All the families who would never see their loved ones again. Because we had to, the medic said quietly. Because you gave us no choice. Emperor Minho received the news of the victory in his command center on Mars. Around him, officers cheered. Some cried with relief. Others simply sat down. Exhausted. Dowager Empress Sunny sat in her chair, her face expressionless. Minho came to her side. We won, grandmother, he said. We won a battle, Sunny corrected. The war is just beginning. The Council will not stop. They will come back with more ships, more weapons, more determination. And next time, they will not underestimate us. What do we do? Sun-Hee looked at her grandson with ancient eyes. We do what humans have always done when our backs are against the wall. We don't wait for the enemy to come to us. We take the fight to them. Minho understood. The defense had worked. But defense alone would never win this war. Humanity couldn't just survive. They had to break the Council completely. Prepare the fleet, Minho ordered. We're going on the offensive. General Taijin stood before the assembled fleet commanders in the war room aboard the flagship Relentless. The holographic star map showed Council space, thousands of systems spread across the galaxy like a glittering web. For millennia, those systems had been untouchable. Now, humanity was about to shatter that illusion. Gentlemen, ladies, Taijin began, his voice calm and measured. For 10,000 years, the Council has ruled through fear and overwhelming force. They believed their empire was eternal. We're going to prove them wrong. He touched the map, and red markers appeared across dozens of systems. These are our primary targets, not military installations. We're not strong enough to take those yet. We're targeting the Council's subject worlds. Species that were conquered centuries or millennia ago. Species that have been waiting for someone to give them hope. Admiral Jiho, attending via hologram from Seoul, spoke up. We're starting a rebellion. We're offering freedom, Taijin corrected. Every species under Council rule will receive the same message. Join us and fight for your independence, or stay neutral, and we won't bother you. But we will not stop. We will not negotiate. And we will not let the Council continue to crush the galaxy under their control. The fleet commanders looked at each other. This was bold. This was dangerous. This was completely insane. When do we begin? One asked. Immediately, Taijin said. The Council thinks we'll hide behind our defenses and wait for their counterattack. We're going to hit them before they're ready. 3 days later, the Terran Grand Fleet jumped into the Viridian system. The Viridian clans had been under Council rule for 3,000 years. Their culture had been suppressed, their military disbanded, their resources extracted to feed the Council's endless expansion. Taijin's fleet appeared above their homeworld and broadcast a simple message across all frequencies. People of Viridian, this is General Taijin of the Terran Empire. We come not as conquerors, but as allies. The Council that has ruled you for centuries has been defeated in battle. Their fleet was shattered at Seoul. Their generals were killed or captured. The Council is not invincible. They are not eternal. And they are not your masters, unless you choose to let them be. He paused, letting the words sink in. We offer you weapons. We offer you training. We offer you the chance to fight for your own freedom. The choice is yours. But know this. Humanity will fight the Council until they fall, or we do. You can join us, or you can watch. But the galaxy is changing, and it will never be the same again. The response came within hours. The Viridian clans rose in rebellion. Council administrators were arrested. Council military outposts were attacked. Within a day, the entire system was free. And the revolution spread. The Nomathi collective heard what happened at Viridian. They had been conquered 2,000 years ago, their warrior culture forcibly dismantled by council decree. When Terran advisors arrived with weapons and tactical support, the Nomathi didn't hesitate. They tore down council monuments and declared independence. The free worlds of Kareth followed. Then the Talori Union. Then the Scattered Suns Confederacy. System after system, species after species, the Council's empire began to fracture. Lieutenant Nari led her special operations team through the shadows of Primarch Throne, the Council's capital world. Getting here had been nearly impossible. Staying hidden was harder, but the mission was worth the risk. Target building is 300 meters ahead, her tech specialist whispered. Heavy security. Automated defenses. Elite guards. Nari studied the fortress through her scope. The Council's central war computer was inside that building, managing logistics for their entire military. If they could access it, they could learn everything about the Council's remaining strength. We go in silent, Nari ordered. No alarms. No survivors who can report us. We have 20 minutes to get in and out. Her team moved like ghosts. They had trained for years for missions exactly like this, learning to move without sound, to kill without hesitation, to think faster than their enemies. The Council's guards were good. Nari's team was better. They breached the outer wall using molecular cutters that left no trace. They bypassed the automated defenses by feeding the sensors false data. They moved through the corridors like smoke, leaving unconscious or dead guards in their wake. The computer room was protected by 6 elite guards, each wearing powered armor and carrying weapons that could punch through tank plating. Nari's team had different advantages: speed, surprise, and absolutely zero mercy. The fight lasted 8 seconds. When it was over, 6 guards lay dead, and Nari's team had control of the computer core. Download everything, Nari ordered. Every file. Every database. I want to know what they ate for breakfast. Her tech specialist worked frantically, pulling data from the system while Nari watched the corridor for reinforcements. 3 minutes passed. 5, 10. Got it, the tech specialist said. Complete military records. Fleet positions. Supply routes. And something else. Something big. Tell me later, Nari said. We need to leave, now. They extracted the same way they entered, silent and invisible. By the time the Council discovered the breach, Nari's team was already off-world, jumping back to Terran space with their stolen data. Emperor Minho studied the intelligence in his private office. What Nari's team had found was worse than anyone had imagined. The Council had a final weapon, something they had never revealed to the galaxy. The World Ender Array. A network of ancient satellites orbiting key systems, each one capable of destabilizing a star. If activated, they could destroy entire solar systems, turning suns into supernovas. They're preparing to use it, Minot said, looking at scientist Yuna. If we push them too far, they'll activate this weapon and destroy Terra. Yuna had been studying the data for hours. Its predecessor technology. Very old, very powerful, and very dangerous. Can we stop it? Maybe, but there's something you need to understand. Yuna pulled up technical schematics. This technology is incomplete. The Council found these satellites and figured out how to activate them, but they don't fully understand how they work. If they make a mistake, if they input the wrong commands, they could trigger a chain reaction. What kind of reaction? The kind that destroys hundreds of star systems, maybe thousands. The predecessors built this as a precision tool. The Council is using it like a club. If it goes wrong, it could devastate a significant portion of the galaxy. Minho felt the weight of the decision before him. If they continued the offensive, the Council would use the weapon. But if they stopped, everything they had fought for would be lost. Can you disable it? He asked. Yuna hesitated. I would need access to the control station. And I would need time. How much time? Days, maybe weeks. And I'd be working with technology that could kill billions if I make a single mistake. Minho stood and walked to the window. Mars stretched below, red and ancient. Humanity had started on Earth, but they had spread to the stars through determination and courage. Now that courage might doom them all. We don't stop, Minho said finally. We've come too far. Too many people have died. If the Council wants to use their weapon, let them try. But we're going to find that control station, and we're going to shut it down. Back on Primarch throne, the Council convened an emergency session. Their empire was falling apart. 20 systems had declared independence. The rebellion was spreading. And worst of all, they had lost the aura of invincibility that had kept the galaxy in line for millennia. The eldest council member, a being so old its species name had been forgotten, spoke with a voice like grinding stones. We must use the array, destroy Terra, kill the humans, show the galaxy what happens to those who rebel. Others agreed. The humans had become too dangerous. They had to be eliminated completely. But one voice dissented. A council member from a species called the Orthani, beings who valued logic above all else. If we destroy Terra, we prove the humans right. We prove that we are tyrants who rule through terror. Every species in the galaxy will see us as monsters. The rebellion will not stop. It will accelerate. Then what do you suggest? The eldest asked. We negotiate. The chamber erupted in outrage. Negotiate? With primitives? With rebels? It was unthinkable. We do not negotiate with our subjects, the eldest declared. We rule them. We always have. We always will. Activate the array. Prepare to destroy the Sol system. Let humanity be a lesson to all who would challenge the Council's authority. The order was given. Across the galaxy, ancient satellites began to power up, drawing energy from the stars they orbited. The countdown to Terra's destruction had begun. Dowager Empress Sunny received the news in her quarters. She had expected this. The Council would never surrender their power willingly. They would destroy everything before admitting they were wrong. She activated her personal comm and contacted her grandson. Minho, they're going to use the weapon. I know. We're preparing a strike team. Yuna thinks she can disable it if we can get her to the control station. Who will lead the team? Sun, he asked, though she already knew the answer. I will, Minho said. No, you're the Emperor. You're needed here. There was a long pause. Then Minho spoke quietly. Grandmother, you taught me that leaders lead from the front, that we ask nothing of our people that we wouldn't do ourselves. I have to go. Sun-Hee closed her eyes. She had raised him too well. Then I'm coming with you. You're too old for combat missions. I'm old enough to know that this war is my responsibility. I started this path 50 years ago. I'll see it through to the end. Her voice softened. Besides, someone needs to keep you from doing anything stupid. Despite everything, Minho laughed. Fine, we leave in 6 hours. Assemble the best team we have. This is going to be the most dangerous mission in human history. Good, Sun-Hee said. I wouldn't want to miss it. The Helios expanse was a graveyard of stars. Thick nebulae in shades of purple and gold stretched across thousands of light years beautiful and deadly. Radiation storms made sensors unreliable. Gravity wells created by dying stars pulled ships off course. It was the last place anyone would choose to fight a battle, which was exactly why Admiral Jiho chose it. "The Council fleet is entering the Expanse," his tactical officer reported. 30,000 ships. They've committed everything they have left. Jiho studied the holographic display. The Council was desperate now. Their empire was crumbling, rebellion spreading across dozens of systems, their authority challenged for the first time in recorded history. This fleet represented their last chance to crush humanity and restore their dominance. "All ships, battle positions," Jiho ordered. "Let them come deep into the nebula. Wait for my signal." The Terran fleet, now supported by allied forces from the liberated worlds, numbered 15,000 ships. Still outnumbered 2 to 1, but this wasn't about numbers anymore. This was about who had the will to endure. Far from the Expanse, Dowager Empress Sunny stood on the bridge of the stealth ship Silent Promise. Despite her age, despite the cane she carried, her eyes were as sharp as ever. Beside her, Emperor Minho checked his combat armor one final time. "You should have stayed on Mars," Sunny said. "Not for the first time." "You should have too," Minho replied. Captain Borum piloted the Silent Promise through Council space, every stealth system active. Behind them followed a strike team of humanity's best soldiers, including Lieutenant Nari and her Special Operations Unit. Their target was the World Ender Array's control station, hidden in a fortified moon orbiting the Council capital. "Approaching the target," Borum announced. "Council patrols are heavy. This is going to be close." Scientist Yuna sat at a console, studying the technical data they had stolen. The control station was protected by shields that could withstand the fleet bombardment. The only way in was through a maintenance tunnel barely large enough for a single person, protected by automated defenses and elite guards. "Once we're inside," Yuna said, "I'll need at least an hour to access the control systems. Maybe longer if the security is as complex as I think it is." "You'll have your hour," Sunny promised, "even if we have to hold off the entire Council military to give it to you." In the Helios Expanse, the battle began. The Council fleet pushed through the nebulae, their sensors struggling with the interference. They knew the Terran fleet was somewhere ahead, but the exact positions were impossible to determine. "Fire," Jiho said calmly. From the nebulae's depths, human ships emerged. They didn't come from one direction. They came from everywhere at once, void jumping into positions the Council couldn't predict or defend against. The beautiful formations the Council prided themselves on became death traps as human ships appeared in the gaps between vessels, firing at close range before vanishing again. The battle became a nightmare for the Council commanders. They couldn't establish firing solutions. They couldn't coordinate defenses. Every time they tried to regroup, human ships would appear in their midst, causing chaos before disappearing into the Nebulae. And then the allied species joined the fight. Viridian warriors flying ships they had built in secret. Nomathi raiders attacking with the fury of a people finally free. The Council wasn't just fighting humans anymore. They were fighting everyone they had ever oppressed. The Silent Promise reached the moon and docked at an abandoned maintenance port. Sunhee was the first one out, her cane in one hand, a plasma pistol in the other. Minho wanted to tell her to stay on the ship, to let the younger soldiers handle this. But he knew that look in her eyes. She had waited 50 years for this moment. Nari's team led the way through the maintenance tunnels. The automated defenses were sophisticated, but human ingenuity was more so. They bypassed laser grids, disabled murder holes, and neutralized security drones. Then they reached the guards. 20 elite Council soldiers in full battle armor, positioned at a choke point in the tunnel. There was no way around them. No way to sneak past. Only through. On my mark, Nari whispered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The tunnel exploded with violence. Plasma bolts filled the narrow space. Human soldiers threw themselves forward with reckless courage, knowing that hesitation meant death. The council guards were skilled, well-equipped, and experienced, but they had never fought anyone with nothing left to lose. The humans pushed forward through fire that would make most species retreat. They took wounds that should have stopped them and kept fighting. In close quarters, where superior numbers and equipment meant less, human determination made all the difference. Sun-Hee moved through the chaos with surprising speed for someone her age. She shot a council guard who was targeting Minho, her aim perfect despite her trembling hands. "Stay close to me," she ordered her grandson. "I didn't raise you to die in some tunnel." 10 minutes later, the guards were dead, and the human team stood panting, bleeding, but alive. Ahead lay the control station dot in the Helios expanse. The tide of battle was turning. The council fleet, despite its numbers, was being ground down. Human endurance was proving superior to council training. The allied species fought with fury that came from centuries of oppression. And most critically, the council commanders were starting to panic. Dot ships began to break formation. Some tried to retreat. Others pushed forward recklessly. The unified force that had entered the expanse was becoming a mob, each ship fighting for survival rather than victory. "Admiral," Jiho's tactical officer called out, "their command structure is collapsing. They're losing coordination." "Press the advantage," Jiho ordered. "All ships full assault. Break them." Una stood before the World Ender Array's control panel, her fingers moving across alien interfaces. The technology was incredibly advanced, layers upon layers of safeguards and security measures. The predecessors had built this carefully. With full understanding of its power, the Council had tried to jury-rig controls on top of the original systems, creating a dangerous hybrid that could fail catastrophically at any moment. "The satellites are already powering up," Una said, sweat running down her face. The Council started the activation sequence remotely. In 40 minutes, they'll reach critical mass and begin destabilizing Sol's star. "Can you stop it?" Minho asked. "I'm trying. But every time I disable one safety, 3 more activate. The predecessors didn't want anyone to shut this down easily." Her hands moved faster. "Wait, there's something here. A note in the code. A warning." She pulled up the predecessor text, her translation software struggling with the ancient language. "They say the array was never meant to destroy stars. It was meant to transcend them, to use stellar energy to open a doorway to a higher dimension." "What happened?" Sun-Hee asked. "They tried it, and it killed them. All of them. The entire predecessor civilization tried to ascend, and instead they just ceased to exist." Una looked up, her face pale. "The Council has been using a failed experiment as a weapon. If they activate it improperly, they won't just destroy Sol. They'll create a cascade effect that could collapse hundreds of stars." Minho felt ice in his veins. "How do we stop it?" "I need to completely rewrite the control systems. Remove the Council's modifications and restore the original predecessor protocols. Then I can safely shut down the satellites." She looked at the chronometer. "I need 30 minutes. Maybe more." Outside the control room, alarms began to sound. The Council had discovered the intrusion. Reinforcements were coming. "Hold them," Sunny ordered Nari. "Whatever it takes, hold them until Una finishes." Nari positioned her team at the control room entrance. They had limited ammunition, limited supplies, and they were exhausted from the fight through the tunnels. But they set up a defensive position and waited. The Council soldiers came in waves. First dozens, then hundreds. They had every advantage except one. They were fighting for an empire. The humans were fighting for survival. The battle at the control room entrance became legendary. Nari and her team held a position that should have been overrun in minutes. They held it for 20 minutes, 25, 30, every time the council thought they had broken through. The humans found some new reserves of strength and pushed them back. Minho fought beside common soldiers, his emperor's crown forgotten. Sun-Hee moved through the battle like a ghost of wars long past, her old hand steady on her weapon. Every human there understood that if they failed, Earth would die. In the Helios expanse, the Council fleet was breaking. 15,000 ships had become 10,000, then 8,000, then 5. Admiral Jiho's forces surrounded the survivors, weapons trained, waiting for the inevitable surrender. And in the control room, Yuna pressed the final command. The world-ender array shut down. The satellites went dark. The cascade that would have killed billions ended before it began. Yuna slumped over the console, exhausted. It's done. Seoul is safe. Minho activated his comm, broadcasting to both the Council fleet and all of human space. This is Emperor Minho of the Terran Empire. The Council's weapon has been disabled. Their fleet has been defeated. This war is over. He paused, then continued. To the Council leadership, I offer you one chance. The Galactic Council, as it exists, must end. No more rule by the few over the many. No more empire. We propose a new system. The free assembly, where every species meets as equals. Where decisions are made by consensus, not force. Where no one can dictate terms to anyone else. From Primarch Throne, the eldest council member's voice came through, filled with defeat. And if we refuse, then we will continue this war until your empire is nothing but dust, Minho said simply. We have proven we can defeat you. We have proven we can disable your weapons. And we have proven that the galaxy is ready to be free. The choice is yours. Silence stretched across the stars. Then, one by one, the Council's member species accepted. They had no choice. Their fleet was shattered. Their weapon was neutralized. Their authority was broken. Weeks later, Minho and Sun-Hee stood on Mars, watching as ships arrived from across the galaxy. Representatives from thousands of species coming to the first free assembly. Some came eagerly, others reluctantly, but they all came. We did it, Minho said quietly. We actually did it. We changed everything, Sun-Hee corrected. Whether it's for better or worse, history will decide. But at least now, every species has the chance to decide their own fate. She looked at her grandson. You know what the hardest part will be now? What? Keeping the promise. We told the galaxy we don't want an empire. We told them we fight for freedom, not conquest. Now we have to prove it. We have to be better than the Council was. We have to show that humans mean what we say. Minho nodded. I know. But if there's one thing this war proved, it's that humans are good at doing impossible things. In the ruins of the Council's military command, a memorial was built. Not to celebrate victory, but to remember the cost. Thousands of names, human and alien, who had died in the fight for freedom. At the base was a simple inscription in dozens of languages. They fought not for empire, but for the right to choose. They died not as conquerors, but as liberators. Let their sacrifice remind us that freedom must be defended, and that no being should ever kneel to another. Admiral Jiho stood before the memorial, thinking about all the faces he would never see again. All the crews who had followed his orders into battle and never returned. The weight of command had always been heavy. The weight of victory was somehow heavier. But when he looked up at the stars, no longer controlled by a single power, no longer divided between rulers and subjects, he knew it had been worth it. Humanity had come to the galaxy as outsiders. They had been given an ultimatum: kneel or die. They had chosen a third option: stand and fight. And in fighting, they had freed not just themselves, but countless others. The Galactic Council's ultimatum had failed. The Terran Empire had struck back, and the galaxy would never be the same.